Is a lighter and thinner iPhone something we need? So if you're in a market for the thinnest and lightest phone, then look no further, because Apple just came out with this, the iPhone Air. Not the 17 Air, just iPhone Air. And while I've only had a week and some change with this iPhone, it was enough time to figure out that it's not really an iPhone that's meant for everyone. Kind of like how Samsung's S25 Edge isn't for everyone. But if you want something different and something that'll make you appreciate the engineering marvel that Apple had to pull to make this device a reality, this iPhone is pretty awesome. Now, just as a quick refresher on specs, the iPhone Air is equipped with Apple's A19 Pro chip. It's a bin chip with one less GPU core compared to the Pro iPhones, but it still performs like a champ. Besides that, the display is a 6.5-inch Super Retina XDR display with a 120Hz ProMotion display, which means refresh rate is variable from 1 Hz to 120Hz. And I'm just going to say this now, it is so nice to have 120Hz ProMotion on an iPhone without that Pro moniker. Now, besides the new 120Hz ProMotion display, the iPhone Air also has 3000 nits of peak brightness, which is great for outdoor visibility, and features ceramic shield on both the front and the back of the phone. It's also using titanium for its sides, unlike the 17 and 17 Pro series, which are aluminum. Now, besides that, this is the first iPhone to be using Apple's own C1X modem, which will give the iPhone Air 2 times better cellular performance and also use 30% less energy than the iPhone 16 Pro. And then there's also Apple's new N1 chip, which is Apple's own wireless network chip that enables Wi-Fi 7, Bluetooth 6, and Thread all in one, which means better performance for hotspot and AirDrop, which from my initial testing, AirDrop does seem to be more reliable, but that could also just be a placebo effect. And then we have, of course, 12 gigs of RAM, just like the Pro iPhones this year, which is nice to see. And you can spec the iPhone Air up to 1 terabyte of storage if you'd like. All right, so what makes the iPhone Air so different and so special compared to, previous iPhones or the other iPhone 17 series? First is obviously the design. It's Apple's thinnest iPhone to date at just 5.6 millimeters thick, weighing only 165 grams, which is just kind of insane how light this thing is. I don't think you guys will be really able to appreciate how light this iPhone is until you hold it in your hand. So I would definitely try to go to an Apple store or a Best Buy and check it out for yourselves. And I said the same thing about the Galaxy S25 Edge. It's stupid thin, and it kind of changes your perspective once you pick it up and, notice how thin and light the phone is. Now, in terms of its design, we're getting a pretty simplistic looking iPhone with just a camera bar on the back, or camera plateau is what Apple would call it. But yeah, we're getting a single camera on the back, and under this plateau is pretty much the heart of this iPhone. This is where Apple houses the A19 Pro chip. This is where the camera and flash is, obviously, and the front-facing camera, the single speaker, and other major components. Now, you guys probably want me to bend this iPhone, but this is a review unit, and I personally won't bend it for views. But I can tell you guys now, for being this thin, it's really durable. Now, even if you don't want to believe me and you still want that peace of mind, chances are you're likely going to put a case on this phone anyway. So my friends at Rhino Shield sent me a bunch of cases and accessories for the iPhone Air so that I could show you guys why their cases are better than the cases that you can buy from Apple. So they sent over their own clear case and Mod NX bumper style case, which will give you better bang for the buck than Apple's own cases since it's better designed. So my favorite would probably have to be these clear cases with MagSafe on them, but instead of having an open bottom like Apple's clear cases, this will protect your iPhone 360 degrees, meaning there's no open cutout at the bottom, unlike Apple's own case. I think what makes Rhino Shield cases so special is that not only will it protect your iPhone Air from accidental bumps or drops, it's the fact that it doesn't really add any noticeable weight or bulk to the Air. It still feels light and slim with their case, and I know for a fact that these won't ever turn yellow since they've done enough in-house testing to make sure that it won't. And their Mod NX case, well, their version of the bumper case for the iPhone Air also comes with a removable backplate, which you can also add your unique design to it. So if you want to have a bumper case one day and you want one with a backplate the next, you'll be set with this Mod NX case. Now, Rhino Shield has a ton of other cases as well, and all of their cases are made from one singular material, making it 100% recyclable, which is awesome. So if you guys want to learn more about Rhino Shield and their awesome accessories for the iPhone Air, they're having a special promotion right now where you can get 40% off screen protectors with any iPhone 17 case purchase, plus you get a free lens protector, and you can use Mark 10 for an extra 10% off your order. So make sure to click the first link down below, and huge shout out to Rhino Shield for sponsoring a portion of this video. Okay, so the second thing that makes this iPhone special compared to, other iPhones is the fact that it's using 3 of Apple's in-house chips, meaning it has the A19 Pro, C1X modem for, the cellular, the N1 chip for things like Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. Now, why is this important? Because having all 3 chips inside this iPhone means hardware is heavily optimized for software, or vice versa. Now, even though this iPhone may not have the biggest battery capacity compared to the iPhone 17 or 17 Pro Max, it still enables 3 things that I think are super important. And those 3 things would be extended battery life, better integration with Apple's A19 Pro chip for better network performance, and the N1 chip will apparently make hotspot and AirDrop way more reliable, which is definitely needed because over the past couple of years, AirDrop's been a miss, at least for me. And so with all 3 in-house chips inside this iPhone, Apple was able to really optimize hardware with software so that battery life isn't as bad for a phone this thin. Now, for the past week and a half that I've had this phone, it's kind of crazy how well this phone held up. I wouldn't say that it's getting iPhone 17 Pro Max battery, but it's closer to the base 17, which has a bigger capacity battery, but doesn't have 3 Apple Silicon chips inside, just N1 and A19. So if you're worried about battery life on the iPhone Air, it's really not that terrible. Plus, Apple made their own MagSafe battery pack just for the Air, and I honestly wouldn't buy it just because, it kind of defeats the purpose of having such a thin phone. But so far, I'm not too concerned about battery life here on the Air, but who knows, things could change in a month or two. Now, the third thing that I would say make this iPhone different is, of course, having that single 48 megapixel camera on the back and the center stage camera up front. Now, I initially thought it's the same sensor as the more affordable iPhone 16e. Thankfully, it's not, because that wasn't necessarily a good camera. It was decent, but not good. The photos I was able to capture out of this iPhone Air, though, looked pretty good, but I definitely miss having that 4x telephoto or that ultra-wide camera from the Pro Max, which is, the phone that I've been using prior to moving to this Air. So the fact that it's using a bigger sensor like the 17 means, better low light, shallower depth of field, but obviously you're missing out on that ultra wide, which I think is such an important camera nowadays. But to Apple's aid though, they did do something awesome for the rest of the iPhone 17 series of phones, and that's to put an 18 megapixel square sensor on the front facing camera. And what you get with that is kind of genius. So the new center stage front-facing camera now uses a square sensor versus a traditional rectangle sensor, which allows you to take selfies or videos using the front camera without compromises. And what that means is that you can take photos in landscape without you having to hold your phone like this.
4K vlog. Wait, this actually looks good. Am I glazing? This actually looks good.
Yeah, it looks good. We'll see.
Low light? Oh, that's true.
Now, besides that, you also get ultra stabilized 4K videos and in FaceTime calls. Overall, it's a really nice upgrade, but definitely not something, that can truly replace an ultra wide camera. And before we wrap up this video, just to address more concerns that people had about the iPhone Air, and that would be, the single speaker, the A19 Pro chip, the potential overheating, and the haptics. So here's what I have to say. As for the single speaker, it's obviously noticeable not having stereo speakers, but it's honestly fine for most things like watching TikToks, Reels, YouTube videos, or, talking to someone on speaker. But chances are, if you're gonna watch a movie or a long video, you'll just put on AirPods and you won't really notice having a single speaker. It's not a terrible speaker. It does get loud, but obviously not having that stereo effect is a little odd at first, but I don't think it's a deal breaker. The second thing are the haptics. Now, haptics are definitely a bit weaker than, the iPhone 17 and 17 Pro Max, but they're not terrible. For such a thin phone, I'm surprised that haptics are still good. Now, yeah, it's nowhere near as good as older iPhones or the 17 and 17 Pro, but let's be real, they kind of have to compromise somewhere. Now, as far as the A19 Pro and overheating goes, so far after a week of using the iPhone Air, I haven't really noticed the device get laggy or have it throttle when gaming. It feels pretty identical to my 17 Pro in terms of, how I use it on a daily basis, like checking emails, going on social. And the only time where you'll really notice it to get hot is when you've been playing a game for, let's say, 30 minutes straight. Because after 30 minutes of playing Genshin Impact on this phone, you'll feel that camera plateau get pretty warm. And it's really just that one side that gets hot. But performance-wise, on Genshin Impact, I was able to play at high settings at a constant 60 frames per second, or turn down the settings to medium and play at 120 frames per second. Again, I think performance isn't going to be an issue day to day. It's the sustained performance that'll probably be the bottleneck and cause certain games to play a little choppy and lag after, 30 minutes. But like I said, for my week and a half of switching to the Air, it doesn't really feel all that different from the 17 Pro Max, which uses the same chip, just one less GPU core. But if you're after the best of the best performance though, Apple obviously sells the 17 Pro, which does have a vapor chamber that'll, make it better for gaming and any heavy workload you throw at your iPhone. So at the end of the day, is this iPhone Air any good? I think the obvious answer here is yes, but there's always going to be a caveat to that yes. The iPhone Air isn't a phone for everyone. It's for people who want something different when they pick up their iPhone. Now, yes, there are compromises like a 48 megapixel camera. It gets a little too hot too quickly compared to the 17 and 17 Pro. And of course, it has the smallest battery out of the lineup. But you also get an insanely beautiful display at 120 Hz, you get Face ID, you're getting that new center stage camera, you're getting a flagship processor, and lastly, it's a phone that you'll barely notice when it's in your pocket. So if you're okay with those compromises and want to switch things up this year, the iPhone Air is honestly a really great option.